The Adventure of the Copper Beeches. Of all the varied cases I experienced with Holmes, none presented more singular features than this one. The events occurred in the early days of our association, and I was bound by a promise of secrecy from which I have only recently been freed. It is perhaps as well that the facts should now come to light, for I have reasons to know that there are widespread rumors as to the death of Dr. Grimesby Roylott, which tend to make the matter even more terrible than the truth.
To the man who loves art for its own sake, it is frequently in its least important manifestations that the keenest pleasure is to be derived. It is pleasant to me to observe, Watson, that in these little records you have given prominence not so much to the sensational trials, but to those trivial incidents which have given room for my faculties of deduction.
And yet, I cannot quite hold myself absolved from the charge of sensationalism which has been urged against them.
You have erred, perhaps, in attempting to put color and life into each statement instead of confining yourself to that severe reasoning from cause to effect, which is really the only notable feature.
It seems to me that I have done you full justice in the matter.
No, it is not selfishness or conceit. If I claim full justice for my art, it is because it is an impersonal thing. Crime is common, logic is rare. Therefore, it is upon the logic rather than upon the crime that you should dwell. You have degraded what should have been a course of lectures into a series of tales.
It was a cold morning of the early spring. A thick fog rolled down between the houses. Sherlock Holmes had been silent all morning, dipping into the advertisement columns until at last he emerged in no very sweet temper.
Man, or at least criminal man, has lost all enterprise. As to my own little practice, it seems to be degenerating into an agency for recovering lost lead pencils. I think that I have touched bottom at last. This note I had this morning marks my 0 point. Read it.
The letter read, "Dear M.R. Holmes, I am very anxious to consult you as to whether I should or should not accept a situation which has been offered to me as governess. I shall call at 10:30 tomorrow. Yours faithfully, Violet Hunter." Do you know the young lady?
Not I. It is 10:30 now, and I have no doubt that is her ring.
As he spoke, the door opened and a young lady entered. She was plainly but neatly dressed, with a bright, quick face and the brisk manner of a woman who has had her own way to make in the world.
You will excuse my troubling you, I am sure, but I have had a very strange experience, and as I have no parents or relations, I thought that perhaps you would be kind enough to tell me what I should do.
Pray take a seat, Miss Hunter. I shall be happy to do anything that I can to serve you.
I have been a governess for 5 years, but 2 months ago, I found myself without a situation. I was at my wit's end. I called last week at Westaway's agency and found the manageress, Miss Stoper, was not alone. A prodigiously stout man sat at her elbow.
That will do. I could not ask for anything better. Capital! Capital!
He seemed quite enthusiastic. "You are looking for a situation, miss?" he asked. "As governess?" "Yes, sir." "And what salary do you ask?" I had £4 a month. "Oh, tut-tut, sweating, rank sweating," he cried. "How could anyone offer so pitiful a sum? Your salary with me, madam, would commence at 100 a year." You may imagine, Mr. Holmes, such an offer seemed almost too good to be true. He even offered to advance half my salary. "May I ask where you live, sir?"
Am sure. The Copper Beeches, 5 miles on the far side of Winchester. And my duties? 1 child. 1 dear little romper just 6 years old. Oh, if you could see him killing cockroaches with a slipper. Smack, smack, smack.
I was a little startled. He continued, Your duty would be to obey any little commands my wife might give. In dress now, for example, we are fatty people. If you were asked to wear any dress we might give you, you would not object to our little whim? No, I said, or to sit here, or sit there. Oh no. Or to cut your hair quite short before you come to us? I could hardly believe my ears. I could not dream of sacrificing my hair. I am afraid that that is quite impossible, said I. A shadow passed over his face. I am afraid that it is quite essential, he said. Then that quite settles the matter. The manageress, Miss Stoper, was very annoyed. You can hardly expect us to exert ourselves to find another such opening for you, she said sharply. Well, Mr. Holmes, when I got back to my lodgings, I began to ask myself whether I had not done a very foolish thing. I was sure of it by the next day. I was about to go back when I received a letter from the gentleman himself. He wrote that his wife was very anxious for me to come, and they were willing to give 20 a year. He said his wife was fond of electric blue, and that I could wear a dress belonging to his dear daughter Alice, now in Philadelphia. But he remained firm upon the point of my hair. The letter was signed Jeffro Rucastle. My mind is made up that I will accept it. I thought, however, that I should first submit the whole matter to your consideration.
Well, Miss Hunter, if your mind is made up, that settles the question. I confess that it is not the situation which I should like to see a sister of mine apply for.
What is the meaning of it all, Mr. Holmes?
I have no data. Why should they give you 120 a year? There must be some strong reason behind. If you should find yourself in doubt or in danger.
Danger! What danger do you foresee?
It would cease to be a danger if we could define it, but at any time, day or night, a telegram would bring me down to your help.
That is enough. I shall go down to Hampshire quite easy in my mind now.
The telegram we eventually received came late one night, a fortnight later. The summons was brief and urgent. Please be at the Black Swan Hotel at Winchester at midday tomorrow. Do come. I am at my wit's end. Hunter.
Will you come with me?
I should wish to. There is a train at 9:30. It is due at Winchester at 11:30. It was an ideal spring day, but Holmes shook his head gravely.
Do you know, Watson, that it is one of the curses of a mind like mine that I must look at everything with reference to my own special subject? I look at them, and the only thought which comes to me is a feeling of their isolation and of the impunity with which crime may be committed there.
Good heavens! Who would associate crime with these dear old homesteads?
The lowest and vilest alleys in London do not present a more dreadful record of sin than does the smiling and beautiful countryside. Think of the deeds of hellish cruelty which may go on, year in, year out, in such places. Had this lady gone to live in Winchester, I should never have had a fear for her. It is the 5 miles of country which makes the danger.
At the Black Swan, we found the young lady waiting. I am so delighted that you have come, she said earnestly. Your advice will be invaluable.
Let us have everything in its due order.
I have met with no actual ill treatment, but I cannot understand them. Mrs. Rucastle is not mad. She is a silent, pale-faced woman, passionately devoted to her husband and to her little son. But she has some secret sorrow. More than once I have surprised her in tears. And the child, he is an utterly spoiled and ill-natured little creature. On the 3rd day, Mr. Rucastle asked me to put on the electric blue dress. It had been worn before, but it was a perfect fit. I was asked to sit in a chair with my back to the central window. Mr. Rucastle began to tell me a series of the funniest stories. I laughed until I was weary. Mrs. Rucastle, however, never so much as smiled. 2 days later, the same performance was repeated. Then he had me read aloud from a novel. I became consumed with the desire to see what was going on behind my back. I concealed a piece of a broken mirror in my handkerchief. On the next occasion, I put my handkerchief to my eyes and was able to see. I perceived a man standing in the road, a small bearded man in a gray suit, looking earnestly up. I lowered my handkerchief and found Mrs. Rucastle's eyes fixed upon me. I am convinced she knew what I had done. One evening, I found in a locked drawer a coil of hair. It was identical to my own, which I had cut off and placed in my trunk. I assure you, they were identical. Puzzle as I would, I could make nothing of it. There was one wing which appeared uninhabited. The door was invariably locked. One day, I saw Mr. Rucastle coming out, his face red with anger. This aroused my curiosity. Yesterday evening, the key was in the door. Toller the groom was very drunk and had left it there. I turned the key gently and slipped through. There was a little passage. The center door was closed and barricaded with an iron bed bar. I could see a glimmer from beneath it. I suddenly heard the sound of steps within the room and saw a shadow pass. A mad, unreasoning terror rose up in me. I turned and ran straight into the arms of Mr. Rucastle.
So, it was you then. I thought that it must be.
I was foolish enough to go into the empty wing. It is so dreadfully still in there.
And if you ever put your foot over that threshold again, I'll throw you to the mastiff. Correct.
I was so terrified. Then I thought of you, Mr. Holmes. I sent you the wire.
Is Toller still drunk, and the Rucastles go out tonight?
Yes to both.
You seem to me a very brave and sensible girl. Do you think you could perform one more feat? We shall be at the Copper Beeches by 7. If you could send Mrs. Toller into the cellar on some errand and then turn the key upon her, you would facilitate matters immensely.
I will do it.
Excellent. Of course, there is only one feasible explanation. You have been brought there to personate someone, and the real person is imprisoned in this chamber. The man in the road was undoubtedly some friend of her, possibly her fiancé. The dog is let loose at night to prevent him from communicating with her. We must be circumspect. We're dealing with a very cunning man.
It was just 7 when we reached the Copper Beeches. Ms. Hunter was standing smiling on the doorstep.
A loud, thudding noise from downstairs.
That is Mrs. Toller in the cellar. Her husband lies snoring on the kitchen rug.
You have done well indeed. Now lead the way.
We passed up the stair and found ourselves in front of the barricaded door. Holmes cut the cord and removed the bar. He tried the keys, but without success. No sound came from within.
I trust that we are not too late. Now, Watson, put your shoulder to it.
It was an old rickety door and gave at once. Together, we rushed into the room. It was empty. The skylight above was open and the prisoner gone.
There has been some villainy here. Through the skylight. I should not be surprised if this were he whose step I hear now upon the stair. Watson, have your pistol ready.
The words were hardly out of his mouth before a very fat and burly man appeared at the door.
You villain! Where's your daughter? Ugh!
It is for me to ask you that, you thieves, spies and thieves. I have caught you. I'll...
He turned and clattered down the stairs as hard as he could go.
He's gone for the dog.
Better close the front door.
We had hardly reached the hall when we heard the baying of a hound, and then a scream of agony with a horrible worrying sound.
A huge dog bays ferociously, followed by a man's scream of agony and terrible snarling sounds.
Holmes and I rushed out. There was the huge, famished brute, its black muzzle buried in Rucastle's throat. Running up, I blew its brains out.
A single gunshot rings out. The dog snarls cut short with a final yelp.
We carried him, living but horribly mangled, into the house. As we assembled round him, the door opened and a tall, gaunt woman entered.
Yes, miss. Mr. Rucastle let me out when he came back. "Ah, miss, it is a pity you didn't let me know, for I would have told you that your pains were wasted."
Ha ha! It is clear that Mrs. Toller knows more about this matter than anyone else.
"Yes, sir, I do. She was never happy at home. Miss Alice wasn't, from the time that her father married again. It never became bad for her until she met Mr. Fowler. Miss Alice had rights of her own by will. But when there was a chance of a husband coming forward, her father thought it time to put a stop on it. He wanted her to sign a paper to give him use of her money. When she wouldn't, he kept on at her until she got brain fever. When she got better, her beautiful hair was cut off."
Ah, I think that what you have told us makes the matter fairly clear. Mr. Rucastle then, I presume, took to this system of imprisonment and brought Miss Hunter down to get rid of the persistence of Mr. Fowler.
"That was it, sir."
And Mr. Fowler, being a persevering man, blockaded the house and convinced you that your interests were the same as his.
Mr. Fowler was a very kind-spoken, free-handed gentleman.
And in this way, he managed that your good man should have no want of drink, and that a ladder should be ready at the moment when your master had gone out.
"You have it, sir, just as it happened."
And thus was solved the mystery. Mr. Rucastle survived, but was always a broken man. Mr. Fowler and Miss Rucastle were married the day after their flight. As to Miss Violet Hunter, Holmes manifested no further interest in her when once she had ceased to be the center of one of his problems. She is now the head of a private school at Walsall, where I believe she has met with considerable success.